Praised be Jesus and Mary. In the gospel reading, our Lord feeds over 5,000 people with just 5 barley loaves and a couple of fish, and he has 12 wicker baskets left over. And the people recognize immediately that this is someone who was extraordinary. They already knew that. That's why they came. It said they'd seen the signs he was performing on the sick. And they proclaim that the prophet has come into the world. Now, they were speaking of the prophet whom Moses spoke of in the book of Deuteronomy when he said that God will raise up a prophet like me from your own kinsmen. We have to keep in mind, the Jews knew the time in which the Messiah was supposed to come into the world based on the prophecy of Jeremiah. And that's why in the first reading, Gamaliel warned the Sanhedrin not to do anything, because when Theudas and Judas the Galilean came into the world, people thought that they might be the Messiah. And Gamaliel was saying, this is a similar movement. And it's, if it's of God, he said, you're going to be fighting against God himself. But if it's of a human origin, it's simply just going to die out. But, even with this advice, we see the Sanhedrin flogging the apostles anyway, because they just couldn't accept the fact that these men were doing, what these men were doing could possibly, have been of God. Even though Gamaliel, who is known as the greatest rabbi that ever lived, was instructing them, on what to do. So we see 2 different extremes. The people who want to make him king because they had their bellies full. They didn't believe in who he was simply because they just didn't understand completely. And then we have the Sanhedrin, who refused to believe, even though they saw the truth. They saw the works that were done in his name. They heard the story of the guards who said he had risen from the dead. They saw the truth. But they still refused to believe. Now for us, virtue stands right in the middle. We understand who he is. We understand why he is king. And we can accept him. We can allow him to be our king, not just because he fed people with bread, or not merely because he's going to raise up a little army around him and, kick out the Romans, but rather because he has destroyed the enemy of our souls. And because he is both God and man, because he died and rose from the dead, he is king, not merely of the country of Israel, but of the new Israel, of all those who would believe in his name. And like the apostles in the first reading, we have to believe in the power of that name, and like them, be willing to suffer dishonor for the sake of that holy name.